Hello, trading has closed on the 22nd of August 2025. Today is the 23rd. As always, we'll start with our disclaimer. We'll go over our calls and then make our predictions. This is my trading plan for Monday, which is August 25, 2025. Please remember, it's a plan. I can always change my plan. My plan can be wrong. I'm busy for the next couple of weeks, and I may not be risking my own money on these trades, and trade at your own risk. Friday's pattern was the one with the early low. Monday should also have the early low. We called for a decent rally, which turned out to be an understatement. And we said it might present a good opportunity to go short. I never saw an opportunity to go short, although there is a candidate for a short entry Monday. Let's just review what we said. Let's start out, let's change the normal order around. We're going to look at the intraday pattern first. We had an ultimate sell signal here. We haven't seen the target yet. The target is 64.40.84. Ultimately it prints. It doesn't mean powerful like an ultimate weapon. It means ultimately at some point that number is seen, and usually more. It doesn't have to print anytime soon, but it usually will. So we have a lower target. The system is 23 years old. I get about 150 ultimate targets on average a year. In those 23 years, I have about 7 of these which never printed. So ultimately, at some time, we should see that price. In the afternoon, we got a buy signal. Well, that just sets a target at a higher price. The higher price printed immediately. That price is resistance, and so far resistance has held. We had some targets. We said there was a chance for a decent rally on Friday. One target, we measured an ABC from here to here. We said we had a target around 64.14 cash. That was hit almost immediately, or close to that number was hit almost immediately, and we said we should trade over this price. Well, those are resistance levels, not just targets. We came pretty close and then broke through resistance. We had some higher targets. We hit a target from the 19th of 64.53.08. We broke through that one too, and since we broke through it, resistance becomes support, and so far support's held. There's one more target we'll talk about. First, let's review what we said. These are the patterns for next week. The other target we talked about, we said when we had a drop through an upsloping trend line, or a downsloping one for that matter, it comes in a straight line. One of my rules is you return to that trend line, and usually you don't have to wait long. So that target was hit. Now that return usually stops right at the line because that target's also resistance. We've now broken through it. So we've broken through resistance. And not only, now of course you have to hold it. If we gap down, go under it, that break doesn't count. But for right now, it's a breakthrough resistance. It also invalidates the break of this time to mark TD line. We said when we broke through this, it targeted a 520-point drop unless it was invalidated within a few days. And that break above the line invalidates the target. Doesn't mean it won't drop. We just can't use that number. We also have an A and a B. We have to find a magenta C someplace if that's the right count. We said that this drop here, we said that this drop here was equal to A. That isn't going to convince me. It doesn't break any rules, but when you look at the weekly chart, I can't even see a magenta C, which has to appear at some time if that's the right count. So even though it doesn't break any rules, I think you're going to have a magenta C at some place, at some time. We're still bumping up against this trend line, and that's resistance. And we still, if we're going to break through resistance, you don't have to gap over it because it isn't the first challenge of the line, but it makes a clearer picture if you gap over it. And I'm not certain that's going to happen. You're not going to know for sure until Monday. Well, there has to be some way to count this. Here's how I'm counting this. We count this as an AB with a C maybe not complete, and the waves balance out around 64.74 cash. If that's A in gold and that's B, and you set this to 50%, the waves balance out right at that price around 64.74. And then if you look at wave gold C and set that at a FIB 23.6, the waves balance out at the same price, at least they should. Let's try that again. There we go. So we have a fib target around 64.74 cash, and if we stop here, it's entirely possible that's we've completed brown A, completed brown B, and we're going to have a big brown C down because brown A down was pretty convincing. But if we don't stop there, the idea is killed, and that we're not going to know until Monday. So we have the pattern again with a gap up, higher highs, closed under all the highs. So for after this huge rally, and all day to trade on a Friday, when it's hard to reverse a trend, we couldn't hold on to any of these highs. Now for right now, that's a negative pattern. The time runs out only on Monday morning, so if we gap up here Monday morning, all that negativity goes away. But if we don't do that, if we don't clear these highs Monday morning, we should see lower prices, and we have a reasonable target of 64.40.84. And if we don't clear this Monday, and we do start dropping, there's at least a count that says this moves over, and that the break through resistance doesn't really count, because if it gets reversed immediately, that doesn't really count. So we're going to have a real challenge at the 64.74 level. If it holds, we could reverse down, and if we break through in grand style, the whole idea of a top here is going to probably not work, and that we're not going to know until Monday. So Monday's pattern has a really low regardless of where we open. We gapped up at a higher high but closed under intraday highs. If that's maintained at the open, it should lead to lower prices regardless of where we close. We have a lower MEJT target. Ultimately, it should print. We rallied to resistance in a straight line. Some resistance we cleared, some we didn't. If we are to continue higher, it would be ideal for us to gap up. There's fib resistance around 64.74 cash, maybe a bit less, which is a possible target for the end of the rally leg. Taking that number is a risk, so if it goes too much past it, don't just cross your fingers and hope. Friday's rally invalidated the pattern, calling for a 500 plus handle drop, and it did so within its allowed time frame. We still have a possible top in this area, but, in capital letters, if we don't reverse hard and fast, this idea could fail. So if it's going to work, it should work, and it should be obvious. We should drop, maybe hitting 64.74 first, ideally, and then drop hard and fast. And if that works, we still have a top here. We take these out early, keep going up, I'm going to have to get my eraser out, and that's always possible. So it's the pattern with the early low. We have a candidate for a top. We have a lower target, which doesn't have to print Monday, but usually doesn't take too long. So I think the early trade is going to be critical. Watch that number, and that's today's call.